Hey guys, tonight we're going to do something a little different. We're going to travel back, not just back in time, but back before time, before the gods, before Zeus with his thunderbolts, before Poseidon and his trident, before any of them. There's no obligation, of course, but it truly helps our late-night journeys find more fellow travelers. Feel free to post your location and what time it is where you are. It's always nice to see where everyone is listening from in our little corner of the cosmos. We're going to the very beginning to meet the silent, shadowy things that were there first. You think of disorder and confusion. There's no sense of time passing. A minute could be a millennium. A billion years could be a breath. You have no body, no eyes, no ears, yet you perceive, you feel the immense potential humming in the nothingness around you. It's like the moment before a single drop of rain falls into a perfectly still lake, an instant stretch to eternity. They aren't being born in a way you or I would understand. It is the shadow that falls between the stars. This is Erebus, the primordial darkness. There's no biology here, no parents, no struggle. It's more like precipitation, and as you float there, an unseen witness in the pre-dawn of creation, you feel the story is truly about to begin. The stage is no longer empty. The first two actors have just arrived, and they are about to have children of their own, children that will change the nature of reality forever. The silent, shadow gods are waking up, as if the sheer density of the dark has caused two droplets to condense and fall out of the void. They are not opposites of chaos, but rather its first and purest expressions. They are the first true things in existence, the first named entities in a universe that, until now, had no words. This is the foundational fact of our entire mythology. First, there was the void. Before any god or monster, there was simply a stage waiting for actors. She is the velvet cloak of the starless midnight sky. She is the concept of night itself, a time for rest, for secrets, for dreams. She is a presence both terrifying and calming, a vast, swirling veil of deep indigo and black. This is Nyx, the primordial night. But the ancient Greeks, specifically the poet Hesiod, who first wrote these tales down around 700 BC in his poem, the Theogony, had a different idea. Was it a conscious entity, or was it just the cosmic real estate where everything was about to happen? The myths are beautifully vague on this point, leaving it to the imagination. For our journey, let's imagine it as both. A place, yes, but a place with a presence, a sleepy, dreaming intelligence that has no form and no thought, but is about to give birth to everything. For him, chaos or chaos came from a word that meant a gap, a chasm, or a yawning void. It's not messy, it's empty. It is the universe's ultimate clean slate. And step with me into tonight's boring adventure. For this story, you are not a hero or a warrior. You are simply a witness. You are a thought, a flicker of potential, existing in the first moment there ever was. And the first moment is nothing. We're exploring the realm of the primordial gods, the first raw, cosmic forces that nobody really builds temples to anymore. It's as if the void has taken a breath. We are obsessed with the complex drama of the Olympians, their jealousies, their wars, their love affairs. But all of that is built on this simple, quiet foundation. The ancient Greeks understood that you can't have a story about something until you have a concept of nothing. The potential that was humming gently now begins to coalesce. The emptiness is so profound, so absolute, that it begins to create its own opposite. It is a bit like being so bored that you invent a game to play just to have something to do. The universe is about to play its game. Not silence, which is the absence of sound, but a state where the very concept of sound doesn't exist. There is no air to carry a vibration, no eardrum to receive it. There is no light. Not darkness, which is the absence of light, but a reality where photons haven't been imagined yet. It is a pure, unblemished, and total lack of everything. This is where our story begins. This is chaos. You're floating in an immense, quiet, and profoundly dark space. There's no up, no down, no forward, no back. There's only a state of being. And let's be honest, if this was a real adventure, you probably wouldn't survive this part. The human mind isn't exactly built for infinite, featureless voids. It tends to, shall we say, unravel? But for tonight, you're not quite human. You're just a point of awareness, ready to watch the universe being born. So, before you settle into comfort, if stories like this bring you a sense of peace, please consider a gentle tap on the like and subscribe buttons. Now, Let the outside world fade away. Dim the lights down low. Let the soft white noise of a fan carry you. Take a deep breath. There is no sound. When you hear the word chaos today, you think of a messy desk, a traffic jam, or a toddler with a box of crayons. You drift in this magnificent emptiness. Scholars and philosophers still argue whether chaos was a place, or if it was the first divine being itself, formless, mindless god of nothing. You feel a subtle shift in the non-space around you. It's not a movement, but a change in the quality of the nothingness. This is the quirky little secret of creation myths. The most powerful and fundamental things are often you feel two distinct presences beginning to separate from the general fabric of chaos. One is an essence of profound, impenetrable blackness. It is the dark at the bottom of the deepest cave, the gloom in the forgotten corners of the world. The other is his twin, his other half. They are the first siblings, born of nothing but the will of the void. They drift in the infinite space, that chaos defined, two distinct shades of black in an ocean of pure void. You are still a silent witness, and you feel their presence as two fundamentally different qualities of the dark. If Erebus is the darkness of a sealed room, Nyx is the darkness of the entire cosmos. The universe's first, and arguably most, goth power couple. Is this a story of two gods falling in love? Or is it a philosophical explanation for how a world of total darkness could eventually produce light? This is also where things get a little strange, because Nyx is a remarkably ... productive deity. Later myths say that on her own, without a partner, she will give birth to a whole host of abstract and often terrifying concepts, a seed of brilliance, nurtured in the deepest, most absolute darkness imaginable. It's a paradox, the first of many in this new cosmos. They have pooled their essence and created a cradle of perfect gloom. Now, something is stirring within it, something that will illuminate the void, that will give shape to the shapeless, and that will, for the first time, divide reality into two distinct phases. The reign of absolute, uninterrupted darkness is coming to an end. The first dawn is waiting to break. How can the blackest black create the purest white? How can night and darkness give birth to their own undoing? But that is the nature of this primordial world. It is a place of fundamental forces, and the existence of one thing inevitably seems to summon its opposite into being. She alone produces Moras, the embodiment of doom, Thanatos, the personification of death, and Hypnos, the gentle god of sleep. This is our quirky tidbit for the night. The idea of sleep itself is a direct child of the primordial night. It makes a strange kind of sense. Sleep is that little piece of the original, peaceful darkness that we get to borrow every evening. So as you lie there, drifting off, you're tapping into a force as old as the cosmos itself. The beauty of myth is that it can be both at the same time. It doesn't have to choose. There is no conversation, no courtship. What would they say? What language would they use? Days is a relationship of pure being. Erebus, the static dark below, and Nyx, the vast, moving dark above. It's a true partnership, and it is about to create something that is their complete and total opposite. As you float in the vastness, watching these two immense shadows become one, you feel a tension building. It's the feeling of a pulled-back slingshot, of a deep breath held for too long. The universe has, until now, only known one flavor. It has explored every possible shade of black, every texture of gloom. Now, it's tired of it. It's ready for something new. They are intertwined by their very nature. You feel them begin to merge, a slow, cosmic dance. The heavy, still darkness of Erebus begins to mingle with the flowing, majestic darkness of Nyx. It is less a romantic union and more a fundamental interaction, like two weather fronts meeting to create a storm. She is the great, wheeled chariot of the night sky, studded with the potential for stars. Her darkness is a velvet cloak, a blanket that promises rest and hides secrets. She moves with a slow, deliberate grace, a swirling nebula of indigo and obsidian. She is not just the absence of light. She is a presence in her own right, powerful and ancient. And this is the core foundational fact about her. Nyx is one of the few beings in the entire Greek mythological canon that Zeus himself is said to fear. In later tales, he, the king of the gods, backs down from a confrontation rather than risk angering the primordial night. She isn't just an old god, she's a power that commands respect across all divine generations. Erebus, the darkness, is heavy, still, and absolute. Think of the lightless pressure at the bottom of the deepest ocean trench, or the profound black you might find if you were sealed in a cave a mile beneath the earth. It is a stationary, oppressive gloom. It is the shadow that has never known light. Erebus is less a personality and more a principle, the principle of utter blackness. Then there is Nyx, the night. She is different. She is active, dynamic, and vast. For an eternity that is also an instant, they simply coexist. Historians and poets still argue whether the union of Nyx and Erebus was meant to be a literal marriage between two beings, or a beautiful poetic metaphor for the state of the universe before creation. As their essences combine, a new kind of potential begins to form. It's a subtle change in the fabric of their shared being. But this first union, this mixing of night and darkness, is different. It's not producing abstract concepts. Within the combined form of Nyx and Erebus, a flicker is born. It's not light, not yet. It is the idea of light. You sense the impending birth is not far off. The two great shadows have done their work. The tension within the unified darkness of Nyx and Erebus can't hold. Something has to give. You feel it as a pressure building to a breaking point, a silent, internal straining. And then, it happens. Not with a bang, but with a bloom. She is not a source of light like ether, but rather the state that is light creates. She is the day. If ether is the brilliant bulb, she is the illuminated room. Think of it this way. Hemriah is the event itself. She is the daytime. Was it a slow, deliberate process? Or was it a singular event with a void suddenly fractured into its component parts? Night, dark, light, and day. The poetic sources like Hesiod present it as a genealogy, which is much better for storytelling. But the philosophical truth might be that everything simply was, all at once. Helios is just the guy with the fancy, fiery chariot who has the job of driving across the sky during the daytime. What was once a uniform, featureless black is now a dynamic realm of opposites. The brilliant, shimmering ether fills the highest reaches, a divine VIP lounge of the purest atmosphere. Below him, the warm presence of Hemra holds sway, bathing the void in a light that has never been seen before. And at the edges, her mother, Nyx, and father, Erebus, wait, their dark power undiminished, simply biding their time until their turn in the cycle comes again. It's a subtle distinction, a bit of cosmic bureaucracy, but it shows how the Greeks saw these primordial beings as the underlying concepts, the very fabric of reality upon which later, more personified gods would live and act. Hemra's divine gig is simply to be the day. It's a pretty sweet deal, all things considered. She is the very concept of daytime, a warm, expansive presence that contrasts sharply with the cool, reserved nature of her mother, Nyx. Where Nyx was a cloak of velvet, Hemera is a gown of shimmering silk. From the very heart of the deepest dark, a radiant presence bursts forth. There is light, but there is nothing for it to shine on. There is a vast cosmic space, but it is devoid of substance, of matter, of anything solid. The universe has its lighting and its schedule, but it has no setting, no ground, no world. The great, dreaming intelligence of chaos has one more trick up its non-existent sleeve. The grandest creation is yet to come, and this one won't be born from the interplay of others. It will simply wake up. It is pure, undiluted light. This isn't the warm, yellow light of a sun or the soft, white light of a lamp. It is brilliance itself, a shimmering, ethereal substance that seems to sing with a silent, high-frequency energy. This is ether. He is the personification of the upper sky, the clear, bright ether that exists far above the clouds. This is the foundational air of the gods. Later, the Greeks would distinguish this from air, the lower, murkier atmosphere that mortals breathe. Ether is the divine, unpolluted air of the highest heavens, the stuff of souls and stars. You watch as he expands outward, a wave of pure luminosity pushing back the gloom of his parents. For the first time, the vastness of the void is visible. You can see the edges of the great chasm of chaos, now illuminated by its own grandchild. It's as if the universe, after fumbling for the light switch for a few billion years, has finally found it, but he is not alone. Emerging with him, born from the same paradoxical womb of night and darkness, is his sister. You now witness the first cosmic mechanism click into place, the first grand celestial dance. As Hemera measures her mother, Nyx retreats. The two cannot occupy the same space. It's the most fundamental rule of this new reality. As the brilliant, warm presence of day expands, the cool, dark presence of night draws back to the edges of the universe, waiting her turn. This begins the eternal cycle. Hemera will chase her mother across the cosmos, and her mother will chase her right back. A perpetual, silent pursuit that defines the passage of time. This is a quirky and often confusing little detail of Greek myth. The day is not the same as Helios, the god of the sun who comes much later. Classicists and mythographers still debate whether these first births happen sequentially, in a neat and tidy family tree like the one we are following, or if they all burst forth from chaos in a single, explosive moment of creation. For now, you are a witness to a universe transformed. The stage is now fully lit. The fundamental rules of time and light are established, but the stage itself is still empty. For a while, this is the new status quo. The universe has a rhythm. The brilliant Hemera bathes the void in light, then retreats to let her mother Nyx cast her silent, shadowy veil. In the middle of the vast chasm of chaos, a single point begins to gather. A great, solid, stable platform in the midst of all this ephemeral light and shadow. Every god, every monster, every nymph, every mortal, every mountain, every river there will all, in some way, trace their lineage back to her. Gaia didn't appear alone. In the same moment that she coalesced from the void, two other beings also just popped into existence. Was she a truly conscious entity, a living planet, with her own thoughts, feelings, and intentions, much like a modern science fiction concept? Or was she simply the divine name the Greeks gave to the physical ground they walked on, a personification of a place rather than a thinking being? The myths treat her as both. She is the physical earth, the soil, the rocks, the mountains, but she also feels, she plots, she suffers, and she gives birth. She is the ultimate mother figure, nurturing and patient, but as we will see, she also has a temper. One was Tartarus, the great pit. He formed deep beneath her, a dark and gloomy abyss that was as far below the earth as the earth was below the sky. He's the cosmic basement, the inescapable prison. The other was Eros, not the chubby baby Cupid with a bow and arrow, but the primordial god of love, or more accurately, desire. He was the irresistible force of procreation, the engine of all future creation. Scholars still debate the meaning of his sudden appearance. Was he a god, or just a fundamental law of physics clicking into place? It's as if the universe, in a single stroke of genius, created the stage, the dungeon, and the motivation for every character to ever exist. Talk about efficiency. She is the bedrock of existence, both literally and genealogically. Before her, there were only concepts and shadows. With her, there is substance. There is a home, a vast, lonely continent of stone and soil, lying silently in the alternating light of Hemera and darkness of Nyx. She is solid and real. You can imagine the feeling of her texture of the rough grain of granite, the fine powder of dust, the cool, damp feel of clay. These are the first real physical sensations the universe has to offer. But as you perceive her existence, you also perceive her immense solitude. She is a floor without a ceiling, a bed without a blanket. She lies completely exposed under the vast, empty expanse of the void. And this feeling, this sense of being vast and uncovered, will lead her to perform her very first act of creation. She will not take a partner. She will simply look up into the emptiness above her and imagine a companion, a covering, a counterpart to her own solid being. She is about to create her own sky. She is Gaia, the earth. She is not a sphere, not yet. The myths describe her as broad-bosomed, a vast, wide expanse that provides the first and only floor in the universe. Finally, there is a place to stand. Her arrival is not violent or dramatic, but calming. She is a foundation, an anchor in a reality that has been utterly formless until now. You feel the first hint of stability, the first sense of place. It's as if the void itself has decided to a speck of dust. The first solid thing appears, then another and another. They are drawn together, not by a force you would recognize like gravity, but by an innate desire to coalesce. It's a slow, deliberate process. A cloud of cosmic dust becomes a pebble. A cluster of pebbles becomes a rock. A continent of rock begins to form, broad and wide. This is the ultimate I woke up like this moment, but for an entire world. It's a perfect, predictable, and profoundly empty dance. The light of ether illuminates nothing but more nothingness. The darkness of Erebus conceals no secrets, because there is nothing to hide. You, the disembodied witness, feel a sense of cosmic impatience. The stage is lit, the schedule is set, but the play hasn't started because there is no setting. There's no there. Then, you feel it, a new vibration. It's not an emergence from another being. This is different. She doesn't erupt into being. This is the foundational role she will play for all of eternity. Gaia is the ancestral mother. But here's a quirky little detail from Hesiod's account that often gets overlooked. This has led to endless speculation among philosophers and scholars about the nature of Gaia herself. For now, she is simply there. You can feel Gaia's profound solitude. She's a massive, silent island of stability in a sea of cycling light and dark. It's a piece of a sort, but it's the empty piece of a house with no roof. It's like a deep exhalation, a sigh of creation that ascends from her plains and valleys. The mist climbs higher and higher, thinning as it goes, until it begins to arch over her, forming a great dome. It solidifies, not into stone, but into a vast, deep blue canopy. His rule is not one of law or intellect, but of simple, brute force proximity. Is it simply a creation story, a way for an ancient culture to explain why the sky is above the earth? Or is it a more profound allegory about the nature of power and relationships? It can be read as a story of how a source of comfort can become a prison, how love can curdle into obsession. Some even see it as a mythological justification for a patriarchal worldview, where the dominant masculine sky rules over the passive, fertile feminine earth. The myth is powerful because it works on all of these levels. He is the sky, and the sky is always on top. The universe is no longer an open void but a closed system, a two-story house with a floor and a ceiling, but the ceiling is pressing down, making it impossible to stand up straight. Gaia, the great Mother Earth, is now trapped beneath the very thing she created for comfort. She is patient, as is her nature, but you can feel a slow, deep resentment beginning to build within her stone and soil. Nothing can grow or move or be born on the Earth's surface without his constant, heavy presence. He is the ultimate cosmic helicopter parent, or rather, a helicopter sky god, providing absolutely no personal space. His love for Gaia manifests as total control. As the darkness of Nyx cycles through, this new creation becomes speckled with shimmering, silver points of light. It's the first starry sky. She has created a partner for herself, equal in size, a perfect fit to cover her from one end to the other. She names him Uranus, the sky. They are locked together, the first divine couple, and their relationship will produce the next generation of beings. But what kind of children could possibly be born from such a beautiful, yet terrible, embrace? What beings are conceived when the fertile earth is smothered by an obsessive sky? The answer is not gentle nymphs or graceful gods. The answer is monsters, powerful, chaotic, and terrifying beings are stirring in the womb of the earth, and their father has no intention of ever letting them see the light of day. She is exposed to the vast, impersonal emptiness of chaos above, and so, in an act of pure will, she decides to fix it. For the first time, the universe has a sense of being complete, of being a defined space, and at first, their union seems perfect. Uranus, the starry sky, lies upon Gaia, the fertile earth. It's a beautiful, poetic image, the sky fertilizing the earth with rain, the earth reaching up with mountains, but the reality of this union quickly becomes clear. Uranus is clingy. He is captivated by his own creation, by the earth beneath him, and he covers her completely, constantly. There is no separation, no space to breathe. His starry embrace, which at first seemed like a comfort, becomes a crushing, suffocating weight. There is a floor, Gaia, and a ceiling, Uranus. It's the cosmos' first and grandest home renovation project, but Gaia's creative act isn't finished. Before she settles down with her new sky blanket, she adds a few more features. Again, on her own, she pushes up from within her own form to create the long, rocky spines of the Aria. They are her first children of a sort, silent stone sentinels that add texture and majesty to her surface. Then, she sighs out the barren, salty waters of Pontus, the sea, filling the hollows of her form. She's not just building a world, she's landscaping. This isn't a violent creation, but a gentle, steady one. She is, after all, the earth. She knows how to grow things. You watch as a fine, blue mist begins to rise from her surface. It's a breathtaking moment. Now, with her domain established, she can focus on her new partner. This establishes the foundational power dynamic of the early cosmos. Uranus is the first king. Mythologists and psychologists still debate the rich symbolism of this union. As you witness this cosmic embrace, the initial beauty gives way to a sense of claustrophobia. This inseparable, oppressive union is now the engine of all future creation. The union of sky and earth, Uranus and Gaia, is ceaseless. And as is the nature of such things, this union leads to children. But these are not the beautiful, anthropomorphic gods you might be picturing. The children conceived in this claustrophobic embrace are powerful, chaotic, and strange. As you bear witness, you feel them stirring deep within the body of Gaia, immense forces taking shape in the darkness of the terrestrial womb. They are the first generation of true individuals, and their father already hates them. First to form are the three most potent, most overwhelming beings imaginable. Imagine a creature of impossible strength, a being of pure brute force. Now give it 50 heads to perceive and scheme, and 100 powerful arms to carry out its will. These are the Hecatonchias, the Huntanders. Their names are Catos, Briareos, and Gyges. They are not evil. They are just a lot. They are living embodiments of chaos and overwhelming might. Think of the sheer, uncoordinated power of a landslide or an earthquake. You can feel their immense energy churning within Gaia, a constant, restless turmoil. It's safe to say they were probably terrible at sports, but would have been champions at giving a round of applause. Their father, Uranus, peering down from his starry expanse, is horrified. He is a being of serene, if oppressive, perfection. His sky is a smooth, predictable dome. These children are messy, unpredictable, and powerful. He sees their 100 arms, not as a wonder, but as 100 potential weapons. He sees their 50 heads, not as a sign of intelligence, but as 50 sources of defiance. This is the universe's first and most extreme case of a father being utterly terrified of his own offspring, before Gaia can even have a moment to recover. A second set of triplets is conceived. These are different, more focused. They are huge and strong, yes, but their defining feature is the single, round eye blazing in the center of their foreheads. These are the Cyclopeas, not the dim-witted shepherds of later myths, but the original three: Brontes, the Thunderer; Sterops, the flasher of lightning; and Arges, the maker of the vivid flash. Their single eye burns with the fire of creation. They are master artisans, divine blacksmiths from birth. You can feel the heat of their internal forges, the rhythmic thump-thump of their cosmic hammers as they shape metal that doesn't even exist yet. This is a wonderfully quirky piece of mythological foreshadowing. Their very names hint at their destiny as the future armorers of the gods, the ones who will one day forge Zeus's mighty thunderbolts. But Uranus is no more pleased with these master craftsmen than he was with the 100-handers. Their creative fire is a threat. Their strength is a challenge. He looks at his children and sees only rivals to his undisputed reign. So, he makes a cruel and selfish decision. As soon as each child is ready to be born, as they try to emerge from the depths of Gaia into the light, Uranus uses his immense weight and power to shove them right back down. He forces them back into the deepest, darkest cavities of the earth, imprisoning them within the very body of their mother. His parenting solution is essentially to hit the undo button and pretend they never happened. Historians and mythologists often debate what these monstrous children truly represent. Were they just fantastic tales meant to scare and entertain, or were they symbolic personifications of the Earth's most raw and violent forces? In this view, the Hecatonchias, with their 100 thrashing arms, represent the uncontrollable chaos of a massive earthquake. The Cyclopeas, with their fiery eye and their subterranean forges, are the living embodiment of a volcano's destructive and creative power. The myth becomes a way to explain the terrifying, unpredictable geology of the ancient world. For Gaia, this is an agony beyond comprehension. She is the mother, and her children are not only being rejected by their father, but they are being imprisoned inside her. You can feel her pain, a constant, grinding pressure. The thrashing of the 100-handers causes her plains to buckle and her mountains to groan. The fiery forges of the Cyclopes burn deep within her, a perpetual, painful indigestion. She is stretched, strained, and filled with a sorrow that only a mother can know. Her love for her children is matched only by her growing hatred for her husband. The sky, which she created for comfort, has become her prison, and her body, the source of life, has become her children's dungeon. Her patience, as vast and deep as the earth itself, is finally beginning to wear thin. The quiet, nurturing mother is about to start plotting a rebellion. Asterisk, the agony of Gaia is the new constant of the universe. It is a deep seismic ache that underlies everything. The hundred-handers churn in her depths, a perpetual earthquake. The cyclopes hammer away in her belly, a volcanic heartburn. And above it all, Uranus continues his smothering embrace, oblivious and uncaring, enjoying his silent, perfect, starry reign. But pressure, as Gaia knows better than anyone, creates strange and powerful things. Her sorrow, her pain, and her white-hot maternal rage begin to concentrate deep within her stony heart. Patience has run its course. It is time for a new strategy. The silent witness feels her focus shift. Her vast planetary consciousness turns inward, not to her suffering children, but to her very substance. She begins to draw on her own power, the slow, immense geological forces she commands. In a secret, hidden place deep within her, she takes the carbon of her own being and begins to compress it. This is not the gentle pressure that creates diamonds. This is a compression born of divine fury. It's a force that could crush stars. The strain is immense, but Gaia's will is absolute. This is not an arts and crafts project. This is rage forging. From this unimaginable pressure, a new material is born. It is not stone, not metal, not crystal. It is something new, something that has never existed before. It is grey, fantastically dense, and it glitters with a cold, dead light. This is the mythical substance of Adamantor, adamantine, the first unbreakable thing in creation. This is the foundational fact of her rebellion. To defeat a god, she must first invent a substance harder than divinity itself. With this impossible material created, she begins to shape it, not with a forge, but with her own will, grinding it into the shape she has imagined. She forms a long, curved blade, with a row of wicked, jagged teeth along its inner edge. She has created a great sickle, a harp. Now, she needs someone to wield it. The children imprisoned within her are too chaotic or too deeply buried. So, she endures Uranus's embrace again, and a new set of children are conceived. This time, they are different. They are not monsters of chaotic power or elemental fury. They are more like their father, more perfect in form, more recognizable as gods. There are 12 of them, 6 sons and 6 daughters. This is the generation that will be known as the Titans. As they are born, Uranus looks upon them, and for the first time, he is not immediately repulsed. They look like him. They are powerful, yes, but their power is ordered, contained. He allows them to live, to walk upon the surface of their mother, Gaia, and this is his fatal mistake. For Gaia, this is the opportunity she has been waiting for. One cycle. As Nyx draws her dark veil across the cosmos, Gaia gathers her 12 Titan children in a secret, shadowy valley. You can feel the tension in the air. This is the universe's first and most terrifying parent-teacher conference, where the agenda is patricide. She speaks to them, her voice a low rumble, the sound of shifting countenance. She tells them of her pain. She tells them of their monstrous older siblings, their brothers, imprisoned and suffering just beneath their feet. She speaks of their father's shame and cruelty, and then she reveals the weapon. The great, grey, adamantine sickle glints coldly in the gloom. Her plan is not just murder, it's liberation. This is a quirky but crucial detail. She doesn't just want Uranus dead, she wants him gone. The goal is to use the sickle to separate them, to permanently create the space between earth and sky that life requires to flourish. She offers the weapon to her children and asks a simple question: which of you will help me end this tyranny? Silence. The Titans are stunned. They look at the terrifying weapon, and they think of their father, the all-powerful king of the cosmos. Most of them are gripped by a primal fear. It's the ultimate "my mom asked me to do something awful" dilemma. You fear your father's wrath, but you also fear disappointing your mother, especially when your mother is the entire planet you're standing on. They tremble and look away, all except one. Historians and storytellers still debate the nature of this new generation. Were the Titans truly heroes, noble champions of their oppressed mother, fighting for a just cause? Or were they simply a new, more ambitious form of tyranny, waiting for their chance to seize power from the old guard? The silence of the 11 suggests fear, and perhaps a respect for the established order. But the one who does not remain silent, his motivations are far more complex. A quiet, brooding anger has been festering in him, an ambition that mirrors his father's own desire for control. He looks at the sickle not just as a tool of liberation, but as a key to a throne. The silence in the hidden valley is so deep it feels like a return to chaos. The 11 elder titans are frozen, caught between fear of their father and fear of their mother. The great grey sickle lies on the ground, radiating a cold, terrifying promise. You feel the moments stretch, the fate of the cosmos hanging in the balance. Then, one figure steps out of the shadows, while his siblings were still buffering, paralyzed by indecision. This one had already processed the request and was ready to act. It is Cronus, the youngest of the 12. He is not the biggest or the strongest of the titans, but you can feel a cold, sharp ambition in him that the others lack. There is a coiled resentment in his posture, a simmering hatred for his father that goes beyond simple loyalty to his mother. He looks at Uranus not just as his mother's tormentor, but as an obstacle. This is the foundational fact of his character. Cronus, later sometimes confused with Kronos, the personification of time, is a being defined by his desire to overcome the generation before him. He sees the past as something to be severed and discarded. He steps forward and kneels before Gaia. He doesn't tremble. He takes the adamantine sickle from his mother, and you can sense his purpose. He grips it with a firmness that says less, "I'm doing this for you, Mom," and more. Finally, a promotion. Gaia is overjoyed. Her youngest, her final child, has the courage the others lacked. Her heart swells with a fierce, terrible love for him. She embraces him and begins to whisper the plan. This won't be a battle, it will be an ambush. Cunning, not strength, will win this war. So begins the most extreme family drama in history. Most families just argue over dinner. They don't orchestrate celestial coups in the back garden. Following his mother's instructions, Cronus takes the sickle and hides himself in a clever place. A crevice in the earth, a fold in his mother's form. He becomes one with the landscape, waiting. The other titans, still too afraid to help, scatter and hide themselves, becoming silent, unwilling witnesses. Gaia then smooths herself out, pretending that nothing is wrong. She prepares herself for the arrival of her husband. As the cycle turns, Uranus begins to descend. He is suspecting nothing. He sees only his beautiful Earth lying peacefully below him. He longs for his constant, oppressive embrace. He spreads his starry body out, ready to cover Gaia completely once more. And as he descends, bringing with him the darkness and the chill of the void, Cronus springs his trap. From his hiding place, he lunges. The grey sickle flashes once in the gloom. The myths are sparse on the exact details, focusing not on the violence but on the result. There is a single, swift, brutal motion. The adamantine blade, the hardest substance in creation, cuts through the divine essence of the sky god. It is a grating, final sound. The sound of separation. The immediate effect is shocking. Uranus lets out a cry of agony and shock that shakes the very foundations of the cosmos. He recoils, pulling away from the earth with a speed and violence that is terrifying. For the first time ever, a true space opens up between the ground and the sky. Air rushes in to fill the void. The world takes its first, deep, free breath. Uranus, mutilated and defeated, retreats to the highest possible point of the cosmos, a wounded god who will never touch the earth again. The embrace is broken. The tyranny is over. Scholars and poets have long debated the motivation behind this act. Was it the righteous deed of a heroic son, freeing his mother and creating the world as we know it? Or was it the cold, calculated first move of an even more ruthless tyrant? Cronus stands there, the sickle in his hand, looking up at his vanquished father. He is the liberator. He is the kingslayer. And as you watch him, you feel a chill that has nothing to do with the night air. The ambition that drove him to take the sickle is not satisfied. It is awakened. He has freed the world from one master, but the look in his eyes suggests he is already planning how he will rule it as the new one. The act is complete, but the consequences are just beginning to rain down. The act is done. The separation is absolute, as Uranus, the wounded sky, shrieks and retreats into the highest vaults of the cosmos. Cronus stands as the sole authority in a world that is, for the first time, open and free. He is the victor. But violence is never clean. An action, once committed, has consequences that ripple outwards in ways the perpetrator can never fully anticipate. You watch as dark, glistening droplets of divine blood, the ichor of the sky god, fall from the wound. They drift slowly down through the vast new space between sky and earth. Where these drops of blood strike the patient, waiting surface of Gaia, she is fertilized in a new and terrible way. The ground darkens, hisses, and begins to bubble. From these bloody patches of earth, three dreadful forms begin to pull themselves into existence. They are ancient and terrifying from the moment of their birth, with snakes for hair and eyes that burn with an eternal, unforgiving light. These are the Erinyes, whom the Romans would later call the Furies. They are the personification of vengeance. This is their foundational truth. They are chthonic deities, goddesses of the earth, born to pursue and punish those who commit the most heinous crimes, especially crimes against kin. So, the very first beings created by Cronus's act are a supernatural, internal affairs division, specifically designed to hunt down people who do exactly what he just did. Irony is now officially a cosmic force, but they are not all. From other blood-soaked patches of ground, another group of beings arises. These are the Gigantes, the giants. They are huge, powerful, and born of violence, their minds filled with aggression and a deep-seated hatred for the new gods who will one day rule. They are a war waiting to happen, a seed of future conflict planted in the earth. And alongside them a third, more subtle group emerges, the Malaya, the gentle nymphs of the ash trees. They seem peaceful, a welcome contrast to the Furies and giants, but this too is a quirky and grim piece of foreshadowing. The strong, straight wood of the ash tree would become the preferred material for crafting spears. The act of violence has not only birthed vengeance and warriors, but also the very material for future, more organized warfare. Cronus, meanwhile, looks at the bloody adamantine sickle in his hand. Like any good culprit, his first instinct is to dispose of the weapon. He rears back and hurls it, along with the severed pieces of his father's divinity. Far out into the sea, the domain of Pontus, the sickle sinks into the depths, lost forever. But where the divine essence falls upon the water, the sea begins to churn and foam. A great, swirling vortex of white bubbles forms, and from its center, a new being rises. This is not a creature of vengeance or war. She is the embodiment of a force that will prove just as chaotic and powerful. She drifts to the shore on a scalloped shell, and where her feet touch the ground, flowers bloom. She is staggeringly beautiful, a vision of perfection that seems utterly at odds with the brutal act that led to her creation. This is Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, passion, and pleasure. It is perhaps the strangest detail of this entire story. The universe's first act of treacherous, calculated patricide directly results in the birth of the goddess of sublime beauty and desire. Ancient storytellers and modern analysts still debate the profound symbolism here. Does this mean that all acts of violence are inherently creative? That destruction and creation are two sides of the same coin? Or is it a more pointed and cynical statement that a single act of treachery against one's own family inevitably pollutes the world, planting the seeds for all future vengeance, the Furies, all future war, the giants and the ash nymphs, and even the uncontrollable, often destructive passions of love and desire, Aphrodite? It's a strange and chaotic party bag to get from a single event. The world is now fundamentally changed. The old order of a suffocating sky is shattered. Cronus is the undisputed new ruler, but the earth is now seeded with Furies, giants, and the raw material for war. The goddess of love walks the shores, and deep within the earth, a crucial detail remains. The monstrous elder siblings, the Hundred-Handers, and the Cyclopes are still imprisoned. Cronus has freed himself and his Titan siblings, but he has not freed his older brothers. He has no intention to. He fears their power, just as his father did. The world is free, but it is not yet just. A new age is dawning, ruled not by a single, oppressive god, but by a council of 12 powerful, ambitious siblings. The age of the Titans has begun. With the old king banished and the world remade, a new order settles across the cosmos. You watch as Cronus, the Titan who dared, takes his place as the undisputed ruler. He doesn't rule alone. He and his 11 siblings divide the universe amongst themselves. This is the era of the Titans. Oceanus, the great earth-encircling river, governs the waters. the radiant Hyperion and his sister, Theia command the sun and moon, and Cronus, the king, takes his own sister, the gentle and nurturing Rhea, to be his queen, continuing the proud celestial tradition of keeping it all in the family. Their divine genealogy chart begins to look less like a tree and more like a wreath. On the surface, the reign of Cronus ushers in an age of unprecedented peace and prosperity. Later poets, like Hesiod, would look back on this time and call it the Golden Age. For the inhabitants of the earth, the nymphs, the spirits, the early stirrings of life, it is a paradise. Gaia, the Earth Mother, freed from her oppressive husband, rejoices by providing boundless bounty. Fruit hangs heavy on every branch, vines are laden with grapes, and honey drips from the trees. There is no need for agriculture or hard labor. There is no sickness, no poverty, no crime, and most remarkably, no miserable old age. Beings live long, peaceful lives, and when their time is done, they simply lie down and pass away, as if falling into a soft, gentle sleep. It's the universe's first and best all-inclusive resort, a cosmic retirement community where the living is always easy. You can feel the gentle, peaceful rhythm of this era. The sun is always warm, the breeze is always soft. It is a world of sublime, sleepy contentment. But you, the unseen witness, can also feel the deep, rotting hypocrisy at the heart of this perfect world. Because Cronus's first official act as the new king is not one of universal liberation. He promised to free his mother from her torment, and he did. But he never promised to free his brothers. Deep in the belly of the earth, in the dark pit of Tartarus, the 100-handers and the Cyclopes remain in their chains. Cronus, the great liberator, fears their raw power and their monstrous forms just as much as his father Uranus ever did. He knows they are instruments of chaos, and his new world order is one of absolute control. This is the quirky and damning detail of his reign. Not only does he leave his elder brothers imprisoned, but he strengthens their prison. He sets a new, terrifying jailer to watch over them, a monstrous dragon woman named Camp, with the body of a woman, the tail of a scorpion, and a host of venomous snakes writhing around her feet. Cronus's golden age is built upon the same dark secret as his father's tyranny. His official policy seems to be liberation for us, but not for thee. This leads to a debate that has echoed through the ages. Was this golden age a genuine folk memory of a truly better time, passed down through generations? Or was it a useful fiction, a wistful and romanticized dream created by later poets to serve as a harsh contrast to the hardships of their own Iron Age? It's easy to believe in a perfect past when your present is full of toil, war, and suffering. Perhaps the golden age was never as golden as the stories claim. For now, however, the illusion holds. Cronus sits on his throne, the master of a perfect, peaceful cosmos. He has a beautiful queen, loyal siblings, and a world that adores him. He has everything his father had, and more. But he also has his father's paranoia. He cannot forget how he came to power. He cannot forget the sight of the adamantine sickle, the cry of his defeated father, or the cold ambition that filled his own heart. He looks at his perfect world, and all he can think about is how he might lose it. His fear, a quiet poison, begins to seep into the foundations of his golden paradise. He knows that he betrayed his own father, and a terrible thought begins to haunt his days and nights. What if one of his own children were to do the same thing to him? This question will curdle his reign and turn his perfect paradise into a private hell. Asterisk, the golden age continues, a picture of serene perfection. But for Cronus, the king, it is a gilded cage. His paranoia, that small, poisonous seed, has taken root and grown into a suffocating vine that chokes all joy from his reign. He who wielded the sickle now feels its phantom edge hanging over his own neck. This gnawing fear drives him to seek knowledge of his future, and he consults the oldest powers in the cosmos, his own parents. He asks the distant, wounded sky, Uranus, and the deep, knowing earth, Gaia, what his destiny holds. They tell him. They deliver a prophecy that confirms his deepest, darkest fears. Just as he had overthrown his own father, so too is he fated to be overthrown by one of his own children. It's the ultimate divine curse, the perfect symmetrical justice. The news lands like a shard of ice in his heart. His fear is no longer a vague anxiety. It now has a face. It is the face of his own unborn child. This raises a timeless question that scholars and philosophers have wrestled with for centuries. Is prophecy in these myths a glimpse of a fixed, unalterable future? Or is it a catalyst, a self-fulfilling warning, where the frantic attempt to escape one's fate is the very thing that ensures it comes to pass? For Cronus, there is no time for such philosophical reflection. He hears the prophecy, not as a warning, but as a declaration of war. He will not be beaten, he will not be replaced. He will unmake destiny itself if he must. Soon, his wife, the gentle Rhea, gives birth to their first child, a beautiful goddess Hestia. You can feel the warmth and love radiating from Rhea, the pure joy of a mother holding her firstborn. But Cronus approaches. There is no joy in his eyes, only cold, hard resolve. He takes the infant from Rhea's arms, and before she can even comprehend what is happening, he opens his mouth and swallows the baby whole. He doesn't kill her, he imprisons her, alive and conscious, within the darkness of his own body. It is a monstrously twisted echo of his own father's crime, stuffing his children back into the earth. Cronus makes himself the prison. Rhea's scream of horror is silent, a shock that freezes her to the core. But the cycle continues. She gives birth again to the goddess Demeter, and again Cronus appears and swallows his child. Then comes the goddess Hera, swallowed. Then the god Hades, swallowed. Then the god Poseidon, swallowed. Each time, Rhea's joy turns to ash. Her palace, the heart of the Golden Age, becomes a place of unspeakable, repeating grief. Her husband, the king of this paradise, has become a monster, his paranoia demanding the most terrible sacrifice. His solution to the prophecy isn't to be a better father. It's to treat his own children like inconvenient, single-serving appetizers. It's safe to say the marriage was under considerable strain. You feel the profound tragedy of it. 5 times, Rhea brings a new, powerful, beautiful god into existence, and 5 times she watches them disappear into the living tomb of their own father. The Golden Age is a lie, a beautiful facade hiding a secret so dark it threatens to swallow the cosmos. Cronus believes he has outsmarted fate. His children are contained. They cannot grow, they cannot plot, they cannot wield a sickle against him. He has, he thinks, frozen time and secured his reign forever. But now, Rhea is pregnant for a 6th time. You feel her desperation, a sorrow that has hardened into a will of iron. She cannot, will not, endure this again. The gentle queen, the goddess of motherhood, is finally ready to follow in her own mother's footsteps. She is ready to conspire against her husband. She knows she cannot face him directly, but she is the daughter of Gaia and Uranus, a queen. In her own right, her grief has extinguished her fear. As she feels the new life growing within her, she makes a silent vow that this child, her last, will not be consumed. This child will be the one who brings justice. This child will be the one who fulfills the prophecy. Rhea's decision is made. Her heart, broken 5 times over, has been reforged by grief into something as hard as the adamantine sickle that started this whole mess. You can feel her resolve as she turns away from her own court and seeks a higher, older counsel. She goes to her parents, Gaia and Uranus, the very beings who delivered the cursed prophecy in the first place. It's a tale as old as time, going to your own mum and dad for help, with your monstrous husband just with slightly more cosmic stakes. She pleads with them, her voice filled with the weight of her 5 lost children. She begs them to help her devise a plan to help her save this 6th and final child from the dreadful, repetitive feast of its father. Gaia, who knows a thing or two about plotting against a tyrannical husband, is moved by her daughter's plight. A plan is hatched, a conspiracy of grandmothers, mothers, and the earth itself. As Rhea's time to give birth draws near, Gaia spirits her away from the golden court of the Titans. Under the cloak of Nyx, the primordial night, they travel to the distant, rugged island of Crete. There, nestled high on a forested mountain, is a deep and winding cave, its entrance hidden by thick vines and ancient trees. To this day, different local traditions have sparked a friendly debate among archaeologists and classicists about the true location of this sacred spot. Was it on Mount Ida, the highest peak on Crete, or in the equally remote Diction Cave? Both lay claim to being the true birthplace of a king. Inside this dark, earthy womb, surrounded by the silent presence of her mother, Rhea gives birth to a healthy, powerful baby boy. He is the child destined to fulfill the prophecy. She names him Zeus, but there is no time for quiet, maternal joy. The moment he is born, he is whisked away by Gaia's agents. taken even deeper into the care of the island itself. Raya's part in the drama is not yet over. Her face a mask of practiced sorrow, she leaves the cave and finds a large, oblong stone, roughly the size and weight of a newborn infant. You can feel the cold, heavy reality of it in your own imagined hands as she swaddles it tightly in luxurious baby linens, anointing it with perfumes to disguise the scent of rock and earth. She has created a perfect replica, a Trojan horse designed to be delivered right into the belly of the beast. She travels back to the Titan's court, presents the swaddled object to her husband, and puts on the performance of her life. Cronus approaches. He is as suspicious and vigilant as ever, but his paranoia has also made him arrogant. He has done this 5 times before. It is routine. He sees his weeping wife. He sees the familiar bundle in her arms, and he doesn't bother to look closely. Why would he? He is the all-powerful king of the cosmos, the master of fate. He thinks he cannot be tricked. It is a classic user error, the celestial equivalent of clicking accept on the terms and conditions without reading the fine print. He takes the heavy bundle from Rhea. He might notice it feels a little more solid than the others, but in his haste to neutralize the threat, he ignores it. He opens his great mouth and with one gulp, swallows the stone. You can almost hear the dull, heavy thud as it lands deep within him, joining the 5 living gods already trapped there. He is satisfied. The 6th threat is contained. The prophecy is, he believes, definitively averted. Rhea watches, her heart pounding. She maintains her facade of utter despair, but beneath it, you can feel a surge of triumphant, ferocious relief. The greatest bait-and-switch in mythological history is complete. The future king of the universe has been swapped for a common geological specimen. That very stone, the story goes, would later be forced out of Cronus and placed at the sanctuary of Delphi, where it became known as the Amphilis, the sacred navel of the world. A tourist attraction born from a mother's desperate lie. For now, it sits heavy in a tyrant's stomach, a silent, stony placeholder for the real threat, who is currently gurgling in a cave, miles and miles away, safe and sound. While Cronus rules over his pristine, silent, and deeply dysfunctional golden age, convinced he has mastered his own destiny, a completely different reality is unfolding on the island of Crete. Your point of view shifts from the cold, paranoid court of the Titans to this wild, secret, and vibrant nursery. Here, in the hidden cave, the future is growing up, nurtured by the very earth his father sought to control. It's a slightly unconventional childhood, to be sure. There aren't many playdates, but the catering is top-notch, with a menu of fresh goat's milk and wild honey. The first challenge is a practical one: babies cry. And the cry of a baby god, especially one destined to be king of the universe, is presumably quite powerful. If Cronus were to ever hear it, the whole plan would be over. This is where his first set of guardians comes in, a group of warriors called the Quietest. Historians and mythographers still debate who, exactly, the Quietest were. Were they ancient, minor divinities, nature spirits bound to the mountain, or were they a historical tribe of Cretan warrior priests, whose loud, ecstatic rituals were so famous they were woven into the god's own origin story? Whatever their origin, their job is crucial. They are the universe's first, and most aggressive, baby monitor. They stand guard outside the cave, clad in full armor. The moment the infant Zeus lets out a wail, they spring into action, launching into a furious, clattering war dance. They beat their swords and spears against their bronze shields, chanting and stomping their feet on the ground. The resulting din is deafening, a chaotic symphony of heavy metal percussion that completely smothers the sound of the crying baby, echoing through the valleys as just another mountain storm. It's a novel approach to ensuring a quiet nap time, for Nourishment. The infant king is attended by a gentle, sure-footed nursemaid, the divine goat, Amalthea. She wanders the mountainside, feeding on special herbs that make her milk exceptionally rich and nourishing. The baby Zeus thrives on it, growing stronger by the day. He is also cared for by the nymphs of the mountain, who bring him fresh honey, gathered from the sacred bees of the island. He is a child of the wild, of the earth, his character being shaped not by courtiers and protocol, but by the fundamental forces of nature. One day, as the young god is playing, he gets a bit too rough. Already possessing a formidable, if not yet controlled, strength, he accidentally breaks off one of Amalthea's magnificent horns. Seeing her pain and distress, the young Zeus is filled with remorse. He takes the broken horn in his hands, and, in his first act of true divine power, he blesses it. He transforms it into a magical object, decreeing that it will forever overflow with whatever food and drink its owner could possibly desire. This is the origin of the cornucopia, the legendary horn of plenty. As a toddler, he accidentally breaks his nanny's horn, and as an apology, he invents an infinite food replicator. It's a pretty solid "I'm sorry" gift, and a sign of the benevolent, generous side of his divine nature. Years pass in this rustic, hidden paradise. Cronus remains oblivious, ruling his sterile kingdom. Rhea plays her part as the grieving, childless queen, and on Crete, the baby grows into a boy, and the boy grows into a man. He is no longer the infant whose cries needed to be hidden by clashing shields. He is now a powerful, intelligent, and charismatic god in his own right, his veins coursing with the divine milk of Amalthea, and a deep sense of justice. He learns the story of his birth, of his swallowed siblings languishing in the belly of their father, and of the tyrannical paranoia that underpins the so-called Golden Age. You can feel the shift in him. The playful energy of youth is replaced by a steady, determined purpose. The time for hiding is over. The time for a reckoning is at hand. He is ready to leave the safety of his mountain cave, to venture out into the wider cosmos. His first task, to travel to the court of the Titans, to somehow trick his father, and to liberate his 5 brothers and sisters. He knows this will not be easy, and he knows what will follow. It will mean war, a war that will tear the universe apart. Zeus steps out from the shadows of his Cretan cave, his wild upbringing giving him a strength his father could never anticipate. You feel the cosmic chessboard being reset as he makes his way toward the center of power, the court of his father. He knows he cannot win this fight with brute force alone. His first move is not one of war, but of infiltration and cunning, a strategy he seems to have inherited from his mother and grandmother to free his siblings. He needs an ally on the inside, someone who knows the ways of the Titans. He finds one in the clever Titaness Metis, the personification of wise counsel and cunning thought. Together, they devise a plan that involves not a frontal assault, but a bit of strategic mixology. Zeus, young, handsome, and unknown, manages to get himself a position as his father's royal cupbearer. It's a bold, almost comically audacious move. Hiding in plain sight, you are a fly on the wall in the great hall of the Titans. Cronus is feasting, presiding over his golden age, content and secure. Zeus approaches, his face a mask of loyal servitude, and offers his father a special cup of wine, mixed with a potent potion concocted by Metis. Cronus, suspecting nothing from this charming new servant, takes the cup and drains it. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, a great, convulsive shudder runs through the king of the Titans. He stumbles back from his throne, clutching his stomach. He is about to experience the most dramatic and traumatic case of indigestion in cosmic history. With a violent heave, he vomits, but what comes out is not wine. First, a great, heavy, cloth-wrapped stone clatters to the floor, the Amphilis stone, the decoy that saved the king. Then, one by one, his children emerge, not as infants, but as fully grown, powerful gods, miraculously unharmed by their long imprisonment. Out comes Poseidon, smelling of the sea, then the dark and regal Hades, then the 3 goddesses, the queenly Hera, the nurturing Demeter, and the serene Hestia. They stand blinking in the light of their father's court, understandably confused, and probably quite annoyed after spending decades in their father's digestive tract. It is the universe's most awkward and messy family reunion. The deception is revealed. The secret is out. Cronus stares in horror at the 6 beautiful, powerful gods standing before him. The prophecy he tried so desperately to swallow has come back up, Literally, you feel the entire cosmos hold its breath. The golden age shatters like a glass dropped on a stone floor. The lines are drawn. On one side, Cronus and the elder titans who remain loyal to him. On the other, his 6 children, the new generation, with Zeus as their leader. The war for the universe has begun. This conflict is known as the Titanomachy, the War of the Titans. It is the foundational event of the Olympian order, a brutal, decade-long struggle for supremacy. The two sides establish their mountain headquarters. The Titans fight from the lofty peak of Mount Othrys, while the new gods, the Olympians, claim the even higher summit of Mount Olympus. The battles are immense, shaking the very roots of Gaia. Mountains are hurled as weapons, the seas boil, and the sky itself flashes with power as the two divine generations clash. This great war has led to centuries of debate. Was the Titanomachy a distorted folk memory of a real historical event, like the clash between two different cultures and their religions, with the victorious culture's gods replacing the old ones? Or is it a grand, philosophical allegory, a symbolic story representing the inevitable triumph of order, civilization, and intellectual cunning personified by Zeus and the Olympians over the raw, chaotic, and purely elemental forces of nature represented by the Titans? For 10 years, the war grinds on in a brutal stalemate. Neither side can gain the upper hand. The younger gods have vigor and a brilliant strategist in Zeus, but the Titans have experience and sheer brute strength. It becomes clear to Zeus that to win this war, to truly unseat the old primordial order, he will need to unleash an even older, even more chaotic power. He needs to go back to the beginning. He needs to free his monstrous forgotten uncles, the ones his father was so afraid of. His journey is not over. He must now descend into the earth, into the darkness of Tartarus itself. The universe is caught in the deadlock of a seemingly endless war. For 10 years, the new gods and the old have hurled raw power at each other, and neither can claim victory. And so, as you watch, Zeus makes his final, brilliant strategic move. He descends, he journeys deep into the earth, guided by his grandmother Gaia, down into the sulphurous, gloomy depths of Tartarus. He goes to the prison where his father and his grandfather before him had kept their monstrous, powerful siblings, locked away. He does what Cronus never dared to do. He offers them freedom. He unchains the 3 Cyclopes, the master craftsmen. In gratitude, they gift him with his iconic weapons, the thunderbolt, a scepter of pure, jagged lightning. They arm his brother, Poseidon, with a mighty trident that can shake the earth and sea, and give Hades a helmet of invisibility, the helm of darkness. Then, Zeus frees the 100-handers, the Hecatonchires, beings of pure, overwhelming force. They surge up from the pit, their 300 arms ready to fight for the god who liberated them. With these new ancient powers on his side, the tide of the war turns instantly. The Olympians now have unmatched weaponry and unstoppable shock troops. The final battles are apocalyptic. The 100-handers hurl 300 boulders at a time, overwhelming the Titan armies. And Zeus, from the peak of Olympus, unleashes the full, terrifying power of the thunderbolt. The war ends. The Titans are defeated, bound in the very chains that once held the Cyclopes, and cast down into the darkness of Tartarus to be prisoners for eternity. The reign of the Olympians has truly begun. But this brings us back to the beginning, back to the silent, shadow gods. As you reflect on this cosmic drama, you realize something profound. This great war was a battle between the children and the grandchildren of the sky and the earth. But what about the original beings themselves? What about the true primordial powers? They were never defeated. They never even took a side. They are too fundamental to be involved in the squabbles of their descendants. They had front row seats to the biggest family fight in history, and simply watched. Scholars often debate if these first beings were ever truly gods to be worshipped, with temples and sacrifices. Or were they always something more primal, a philosophical framework for understanding the universe? The Olympians got the temples, the holidays, and the movie deals. The primordial gods kept the far more important jobs of being the ground, the sky, the night, and the sea. Gaia, the earth, was not defeated. She became the stage for all future stories. Tartarus was not conquered. He became the prison for the losers. And Nyx, the great, powerful night, still begins her silent, steady journey across the sky each and every evening, feared and respected even by Zeus himself. And what of chaos? The very first, the yawning void. The quirky truth is that chaos is never mentioned again after the initial creation. It started the whole cosmic party and then just receded. It became the space between worlds, the silent, unthinking medium in which everything else exists, completely indifferent to the rise and fall of its children. These first gods, the true shadow gods, were not characters in the play. They were the stage, the lights, and the silent, watching audience. They are the quiet, unchanging laws of reality that exist long after the dramatic actors have taken their bows and faded from memory. They are the darkness that allows the stars to shine, the silence that makes sound possible, and the void that gives everything else a place to be. And so, the great cycle turns. The age of raw elemental power gives way to an age of myth and drama. But underneath it all, the old quiet forces remain. The soft, heavy blanket of Nyx still falls, just as it is falling for you now. The world outside your window grows still, echoing that first great silence of the void. Let the story of these epic struggles fade. Let the crash of thunderbolts and the clash of mountains soften into a distant, gentle rumbling. There is no need for you to fight any battles tonight. Your only task is to surrender to the quiet pull of slumber, a force as ancient and as powerful as night herself. Feel the solid presence of the earth beneath you, your own Gaia, holding you safe.